Hello and welcome to another episode of SEOpresso. My name is Björn Darko and today I'm speaking to Gisele Navarro, and she's the CEO of NeoMam, a creative content studio which creates and produces content with the purpose to collect more links from the internet and collect more shares from social media networks. She's also a contributor to the search engine land, an undisputed outreach strategist and place base. SEOpresso is presented to you by Searchmetrics, and Searchmetrics offers a content and SEO platform which helps organizations to gain more organic traffic from Google. Please don't forget to follow SEOpresso podcast on Spotify, SoundCloud, and any other platforms where you can get podcasts. Hi, Gisele. Super nice to have you. Can you tell us a bit about yourself and what you're doing?
Hi, thank you so much for inviting me. It's really exciting to be here. I lead a team we are remote, but it's an agency that was born in the UK 10 years ago. It's called NeoMam Studios, and we are specialized in creating content that people will want to share and we want to link to. So that's what we do day in, day out. Outside of NeoMam, I have been a link builder since 2009. Oh my God, it's been a while. I started in SEO, and within a few months, I think I discovered I really like link building. And since then, I never stopped. And I guess through those years, I found content as my favorite way of building links that are organic and that continue to be built without me doing any outreach or anything like that, just creating amazing content that continues to gain links. So yeah, that's what I like doing.
I remember link building back in the days when I also did link building. It was pretty much very cheesy, social bookmarks, forums. I remember we used Greybox to automate comments and also automate links. And then it actually turned, right? I think from Penguin now, all those things Google put in place to actually fight spam and fight link spam as well. I think it's just like a perfect switch and also strategy to build content which naturally generates links. And now with your company, NeoMam, as I understood, you are kind of a creative agency who creates digital content with the purpose to be shared or to be linked, right? So, which is an interesting approach. If a customer comes to you and are they saying they want to get links, or are they saying they want to get a piece of content?
I think there's kind of two types of customer that we're seeing, at least right now. So on the one hand, we do have the people who come and say, we want to increase our search visibility, or we want to increase our authority, and we want links to do that. But obviously, they want these type of links that are going to be editorial, that are going to come with content that is going to sit on their website and it's going to continue to get links when we are no longer working together, if that happens. And then we have the other type of customer that actually has seen the content and they want the content. So they come, in most cases are like brand teams, and they just want us to make something cool for them. They do work with SEO teams. So then the way that we see it is we want to know if it worked. We don't just want to make stuff and then leave it at there. We want to know that it works. And for us, links is a simple measurable that tells us whether it worked or it didn't. Because, you can put social, some budget on social and get some shares, and you can do those things and pretend that it worked. But with links, you literally have no control. Either people link or they don't. And if they like it, they will. So whenever a team comes from a brand point of view, we're always trying to get the SEO team on board, because we know we can make something really cool, but we also want it to be valuable and measurable. So I guess those are the two types of clients: the ones that want to increase, search visibility, authority. They want to do it with links, and the ones that actually want to increase their brand appeal with content.
If you now get a new customer in, and let's say their idea is to increase search visibility and authority on a specific specific field. How do you approach a project from the beginning to the end? Can you just describe how that works, how you research and come up with an idea?
So the first thing is always, like you said, research. It's just trying to identify where are the places on the internet that make sense for this customer to be in. That's the number one. I think sometimes when you own a website, you are so caught up in the one thing you do. And you think, oh, I make motorcycle valves, so it has to be about motorcycle valves. And you're like, well, but motorcycle valves are parts of motorcycles. So maybe we can talk about motorcycles. And motorcycles are actually parts of, they get covered by motoring journalists. So then actually, cars, there's traffic happens and you're in a motorcycle. There's what other things you can travel with a motorcycle. First we map out all the places where it would make sense for that client to be in. And then we just go in and see, okay, what's working? So what is getting shared in those places? What is getting links in those verticals, as I call them? And with all that information, we just sit down and then we also go through everything that we have produced within that touches upon the client or those different verticals that we identified, just to see, okay, what do we know for sure that works because we made it? So it's not just looking at things that other people did that work, but also the things that, number one, the things that we know worked. Because I think there's like a tendency of just going and saying, oh, these guys did this thing, let's just do it again and it's going to work. And sometimes you don't know everything about a piece of content that performed well if you didn't make it. All you know is the end result. It could have been, you never know, you don't know how long it was promoted for, you don't know how they promoted it, you don't know anything about it. So it's nice to take it as a point of inspiration, but looking at what you do know, which is the campaigns that you produce that did work for you, or the content that is on your site right now that is performing already, that is already getting traffic, that is already getting shared, seems to be consistently being brought up. Those are the things that I think are good to combine with, okay, I know this stuff works. I know in these verticals, these different pieces of content have performed well. These topics have performed well. And then from that point onwards, that's when we start ideating or brainstorming. We don't just sit down with an empty mind and say, let's just come up with a great idea. We actually always start with a lot of research. In terms of ideation, we all do ideation separately, and then we come together. So everybody presents 5 to 7 concepts that they got through the finish line. Let's say that they are kind of there. And then the senior people on the team, they will take those concepts and in some cases refine them because they're almost ready. In other cases, perhaps use them as what we call a seed to grow an idea. Perhaps the other person brought a concept that was too raw, and people who are senior get to see that. So they will develop them further. And then as a team, we vote and we decide, okay, what are the 2 to 3 ideas that we are the most confident in, that we actually not even confident, but excited about, the ones that we can't wait to make. And those are the concepts that we will put forward to the client and say, okay, this is what we want to make. And then from that point onwards, it's just, depending on the piece of content, production will be different, but we do content that is highly researched, either from a point of data or from a point of desk research, or working with, specialists like historians or architects or whatever the idea. We just try to create something that is going to really become a resource, and it's going to really, over time, it's still going to be the best resource on that one topic. And then we move on to design. Everything we do in terms of design and development, if it's interactivity, we are always thinking mobile first. We want people to experience things on mobile seamlessly, because we know that's, we see it even when we pitch, we see our opens from mobiles, journalists are opening our emails from mobile. So we need them to land on that page that we say, hey, we made this really cool thing, and for them to have the best experience possible. We don't do standalone pages. So we don't create, those satellite pages which are completely fully designed. We actually work within the content hubs of our clients. So if they have a blog, if they have an articles hub, because that's the way I see it, that's more natural and it makes more sense. And it's a good way as well to connect those readers with other content that is already there. So, keep directing them through the site.
And it's not so isolated, right? Because otherwise those landing pages they're lost and they're kind of dead ends in the internet and it has nothing to do with the website actually anymore.
And I think in a way, there's two things that I see happening with those pages over time. Like one is they break and they're broken forever. And the other one is they get redirected because eventually somebody comes on the team that says, we have this random piece of content that has 300 linking root domains perhaps, which is awesome, but it's completely unrelated or it's completely not integrated into the site. So they just go and they redirect it and, the content is lost. And I think that's something that we're very precious about our content. We want to keep seeing it alive and working for as long as it can be. And it's the reason why we host everything on our own server. So even when clients are no longer our clients, if there's an issue with something we made, they can get in touch and we fix it because we want everything to be alive and well for as long as possible. So that's why I think keeping it within the site, it's more organic, it's more natural, it makes more sense. And also it keeps it front of mind to whoever is working on that site and it doesn't become something that they forgot about and then it breaks and nobody knows.
You have so many experience in building that content now for creating links. Have you found kind of an holy grail or have you found a pattern? What is actually link-worthy content? Is there anything you can say?
I have my own theories. So I personally think that people go on the internet for a series of very clear reasons. So either they go to find out how to do something, they want to learn something practical, specific that they want to figure it out right now. They want to find information about something that perhaps is not about doing, but perhaps it's a topic area that they're interested in or they're researching something. Or they want to be entertained. The two biggest ones are how to do something, how to be entertained, particularly right now, right? And you see it even with TikTok. You see the TikToks that go viral are either the ones that are showing you how they're doing something awesome, like how they found a way to peel a banana that you never thought about, or the ones where they're just doing some, crazy, funny dance interpretation of something. And it's like how to do something, how to be entertained. I feel like if you can mix those things together, so if you can teach somebody something and entertain them at the same time, that's a great piece of content. For example, how to care for a plant. So we have, we've made a really cool flow chart, which was about what houseplants you should get that you're not going to kill. Because let's be honest, lots of people buy houseplants and they just let them die because you have no idea what they're doing. Exactly. So this flowchart was really entertaining and it made you feel better about yourself, about the fact that you're actually killing plants and not feeling so guilty about it, facing it, And then at the end, you get told, okay, this is a plant and these are some tips of how to make sure you definitely don't kill it. And that piece of content did really, really well and became a resource for the client. On the other hand, we have taught things to people. So in terms of what I was saying in the middle, so not just how to do something practically, but information wise, there are pieces that we've been doing for certain clients, which are reconstructing the past. For one of our clients, Expedia, we just took this number of ruins from around the world that people travel to, and we reconstruct them to show exactly how they used to look like, but in a very realistic way, and as a GIF. So you're looking at the GIF and it starts with just the ruin as you're used to seeing it, and then suddenly it starts building up and you can see it in the context of what it used to be. And suddenly that's a history lesson. You're learning something you didn't know. And it's so interesting and it's shareable. And personally, that's kind of the philosophy that I like to take with the content that we make as a team is, okay, how can we teach something and entertain people at the same time? How can I make it fun for them to learn something? And we see those are the pieces of content that continue to get links over time. One of those reconstructions we did for the 7 ancient wonders of the world. And if you are to search about them today, they're getting used by, schools. Like everybody's using those reconstructions to say, this is how they were. It's amazing. You just put out something on the internet and just let it go, and it just picks up and keeps performing well over the years. But it won't do it if you're just creating something that is, seasonal for tomorrow. So, Christmas. Okay, so something about Christmas 2019, that's gone. You're going to have it on your site. Great. Hopefully you got lots of links in Christmas 2019 because now we're in 2021. But there are ways in which you can keep your content fresh. So if you had something about Christmas 2019 and every year you can, relaunch it and add new data, and suddenly it allows you to also become, a source for whatever that Christmas topic is, or stats or whatever it is, year on year. But the type of content that I like producing is the one that I made once and it's still 3 years down the line. It's still relevant. It's still fresh. It's still shareable. I don't have to do anything about it. It's still happening.
I mean, that's like everything you said is just like it's really interesting to listening to because the way how you approach this, and not only the way how you approach it, but also like the mindset of putting something out which could be there forever, still collecting links instead of just thinking short term is actually, I think it's super, super smart and gives me at least a lot of insights. The next question I have is, I mean, now you have produced this content, right? And I mean, there are most probably websites which people don't, visit in millions. I know that outreach, for example, is a super, super important topic as well. And I know that you have also worked for Upstream as an outreach manager, so you also know how important seeding is, right? What is your approach or your recommendations how to do content seeding and outreach so that people really link to your page?
So that's actually my specialty, is in outreach, I think. My biggest tip is just spending the most time. I always say, the 80-20, just spending the 80% of your time just with your prospecting and building your list of targets. I think that's the part of the process that most people, or I don't know if most people, but I know that most advice seems to revolve around how to, automate it and how to get it off your hands kind of thing, right? So the tools that you can use so you don't have to think about it, and the metrics you can apply so you don't have to, qualify. And you can keep going to a point of the tools you can use to send your emails without sending them yourself. And my biggest tip is not doing any of those things and actually working manually. I was actually hired at NeoMam initially as the head of outreach. And as soon as I came, within the first 3 months, the first things that I did were removing tools and just teaching them to assess a website with their head and decide with their head if that was a good website for the piece of content they had, to prospect manually, to find contacts manually, and to send those emails and craft them. Even if you're using a template, the email still has to feel like it's been sent to that one person. And the easiest way for you to do that is making sure that you're sending it to the right person. So even if you send the most templated email in the world to me, but you're talking to me about, I don't know, being a female CEO of a small remote team, that's so relevant to me that I will read that as if obviously you did your homework there, you send me the right thing. So that's why for me, prospecting is super, super important, because you can mess up the outreach, but if your prospecting is right, then you have a higher chance of actually getting people to initially just even checking it out, the content. I'm not saying, you prospect and you're going to get the links, but if you prospect right, you're likely for them to check out the content that you're sending. So spending all that time trying to identify who those people are within every site that you want to reach out to, that's quite important. I wrote an entire guide on that on the NeoMam blog. It goes super in depth. In general, I think spending a lot of time finding the right person. And who is the right person? Well, somebody who talks about that topic regularly, somebody who has already shown that they will link out to other sites. If you're finding, for example, if you have a piece of content about, I don't know, female CEOs, and you reach out to a writer who's actually just an opinion writer and never links out to anything other than her own articles, then there's no point. You could send it to her, that's great, but they're not likely to link because that's not the type of articles that they write. So being mindful of those things. And the only way you can do that is by actually reading what they write And I don't say read their entire history of articles, but at least the last 2-3 articles. What do they write about? How do they write? And then even that information you can use when you do your outreach. So when you send those emails, trying to use their language, seeing how they format their headlines and say, okay, how can I write a subject line that mimics their headlines, the way that the words that they use, like simple things that, for example, I tell my team, always include what the asset is that we're pitching. So if it's, if they're maps, we say they're maps. If it's data visualization, if it's an interactive, if it's a chart, we say that. But always pay attention to how they write about it, because there are differences. So there are publications that they don't call them galleries, they call them slideshows. So if you say in the subject line slideshow, that journalist is going to immediately think, oh yeah, one slideshow, obviously that's the word that they use internally to, create those galleries. So being mindful of those things, you can only do that if you do it manually. With a tool, it's just, there are very small details that get lost. Other little things you can do when you're writing your pitch to make it feel more personal, other than the obvious, which is using their name, right? Which is obvious. I shouldn't even say this, that you should use their high first name, their real name. There are cases when you might not have that name, when there is not one writer, when you are reaching out to perhaps a more general email address for tips or the news desk or whatever. I like to personalize it just by doing something super simple, which is using the name of the site and the word team. So, hi, NeoMam team. And I try super hard to get the branding of that name as close as possible, if not exactly the same as how they use it. So in our case, NeoMam, we say capital N, E-O, capital M, A-M. If you write to me and say, hi, NeoMam team, like that, immediately I see you did your homework, whereas most people will be like NeoMan or NeoMam or whatever. It makes a difference. So taking that time to say, okay, what's their site name? Exactly, how do they spell it? Copy paste that into your sheet. Make sure you're using that spelling. If you don't have the name of the person, okay, let's address the whole team. But let's do it again with the right brand name, the right spelling, and keeping it short. That email that you're sending, people don't have much time. As I was saying earlier as well, people open things on their phone. So, you don't want to send a wall of text, because if you open that on your phone and you're scrolling 3-4 times, it must be freaking gold if I'm going to be scrolling so much. So keeping things short, being very quick to just explain exactly why are you reaching out to them? What's the context? Is it that, they cover a topic regularly? Is it that there's a piece of news right now that they're going to be interested, so you want to reference that right away? The new presidency and Biden's taking the new office, the new Oval Office, something, you want to quickly just get them in the mood for them to see your pitch and say, okay, I get how this connects to me, how this connects to, the news right now, or my readers or my site. You need to be super quick at giving that context. I always like to end with a question instead of just saying, oh, hi, I made this thing, here you go, bye. I like to say, hey, does it look like something you'd share? Is this something you'd like to write about? Just to engage that, their brain a little bit, put them in a position to say no if that's the case, because I need to know. Even if it's a no, that's great. If they say no, then you can start a relationship. If they don't say anything, there's no way. Ending up with a question just to a bit of call to action, get back to me type thing. Following up once, not going overboard with your follow-ups. I like to follow up once within 4 to 5 days. I try to do it on a different day of the week just in case. So if I send my outreach email on a Wednesday, I will do my follow-up on the Tuesday of the following week, because I want to try. Sometimes it happens that you get certain journalists, for example, weekend editors, they don't work until Thursday. So if you send me an email on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, by the time they get on Thursday, they have so many emails, they never saw it. So trying different days. That's a simple A/B testing of just within your process. First email goes on one day of the week, follow up goes on a different day. And something I like doing is trying a complete new pitch. It sounds crazy, but actually I just give them another reason why this could work. So I still keep my follow-up within the same thread of the same email thread. So I'm not lying that I didn't reach out to them. They know I'm following up. And I will say, hey, it's Gisele again, following up on what I said last week. But then I try something else. So if in my first, let's say I'm promoting the ruins reconstructed I was talking about, if in my first speech, it was all about travel and these ruins that people travel miles and miles to get to see, and now they can see them from their house, and that didn't work. Then for my follow-up, I might talk about, the pandemic, and we're not living, we can't travel, there is no way. And I give it perhaps that extra angle of, okay, it's not just about seeing these ruins, it's actually feeling this wanderlust in a time when we really need it, because we don't even know when is the next time we're going to get on a plane and go somewhere. Trying something different. And you have nothing to lose really in the follow-up, because already they didn't get back to you first. So you might as well, try something new and see what happens. I do track my emails. So we use Yesware, which is actually a Salesforce tool. So it's for sales, but we do use it for tracking email opens and for storing templates. And something that is nice about Yesware is that it sits within your email. So we use Gmail. It sits within it. So, we are working and you get to see people opening your email or not. You get notifications, which is sometimes it could be a bit annoying, but it's good because sometimes you get to see that perhaps you send your outreach to somebody and they keep opening it. And you see, this person open. And you get to, if you actually go to the dashboard, you get to see sometimes they open from different locations, which means that email is being resent internally. Something is going on. Either they're laughing, which could be, or they're wondering something, they're discussing something. So when we see that, we like to do our follow-up sooner, just to insert ourselves in that conversation that is already happening. I assume something's happening just because I see, the opens, and you see, iPhone from whatever, California, and then you see Windows computer from New York. It's obviously it's not the same person. So, and sometimes all it takes is just to get in and say, by the way, just to let you know, if you need any more information in the press pack, you will find this. You can download it from here. We use Dropbox transfer. So we set up the spaces with a URL that they can go and just download everything. So sometimes a quick follow-up to say, forgot to mention, you can get everything from here. That's all it takes for them to get back to you and say, actually, we were wondering this thing. We had this question. Actually, we're thinking, can we save it? Are you pitching to any other journalists in New York? Sometimes it's just a simple thing that they're wondering, but they don't want to get back to you because they're trying to figure it out themselves. Keeping, staying aware of those things. And again, it's hard to do that when you're just working in a platform that is not your email, that you have to go and have a look at, that gives you numbers as a whole. So you have you had 45% open rate. That's great. But with this thing, every time I see an open, I see it, it's in my day-to-day. So it does make you, when you actually work manually, it does make you more aware of opportunities, I guess.
So you get the client in, you start the brainstorming research phase, you do your ideation, everybody comes up with ideas, you vote for those ideas, you pitch this idea, you go for it, you create a piece of content, and then you outreach and ask people if it's something they could be interested in sharing or linking to, etc. pp. How are you measuring the success at the end? I know you have said that there isn't one hard KPI is how many links you have generated, but you were coming up now also with open rates, stuff like that. Are you measuring crawl depth, time on sites? How are you measuring the success of a campaign for your client?
Internally, we do look at things like open rates and replies and, how many sites did we contact versus how many links we got. We're looking at all these other things. But when we're talking to our client, we are just talking about the main KPI, which is links of a certain authority. That of course we agree that they have to be relevant. They're not going to be, paid for. There's lots of things that are obvious to us. But when we sit down with our clients initially, we say, okay, so we want to get, 120 links, which are with a DR higher than 40, let's say. And either we got those links or we didn't. And that's very simple. If I start adding too many layers, I might be like, well, we didn't get the links, but we got these mentions, but look at the buzz and the engagement on social media, but look at... And the truth is, every client will be different. There will be clients that they will be interested in like the social media element of it, because perhaps the social media team is quite strong and they do things. But the one thing all of our clients have in common is that they like to measure things through links, period. Mainly because our main points of contact, even when we're working with brand teams, they are always tech SEO teams. And they understand links with a certain authority within like a relevant space. That's how we keep it simple. Now, that being said, our clients do look at traffic. We don't have access to their search consoles. It's something that at the beginning we used to have for some clients, and then for others we didn't. And then eventually we're like, you know what? I know if it's not working, you're going to tell me. You're going to fire me, basically. So if you fire me, I got it. But also in the meantime, clients get excited. So they do tell you, and we don't know that there are certain sites that drive lots of traffic. And also it depends on how the link is placed. So when the writer is just crediting and it's just a credit and they are already sharing everything on their article, then sometimes there's no reason for you to click that link because you already saw the entire thing. It's just a credit link. When the journalist is writing their article and they're actually just referencing a study or your data, then there is a reason to actually click to see. So those type of links we know are going to drive more traffic. So also it's the way in which we pitch things sometimes that it does guarantee more traffic, just because we're not just pitching as, just share all these visuals. It's more like this could be a nice study to reference. It could be nice data or nice findings to reference in your next article about XYZ. So we do have our own websites. We do keep track of everything, obviously, because they're all ours, so we can see everything. And it's quite impressive when we do campaigns for ourselves, because then we get to see the wealth of opportunity of so many things that happen that are not just links. But I guess in the way in which we work, because we want to focus on the content, we like to just keep it super simple and say, right, we said we were going to get a minimum of these links. Did we get them or not? We didn't. Okay. There's your money back. There's a free campaign. That's why we have a very clear guarantee, so that it's like a very clear line on the sand that we can all agree this campaign did well, it didn't. Done. There is no argument about, but this other thing.
Did any client actually measure the return on investment, like the money they're giving to you and how much they get in return? Is there something you can tell from a rate perspective?
We can't tell for our own websites, but no. I think so. One of the things that our founder, Danny, he always says is clients measure ROI, and they're the ones who decide what's the ROI that they're expecting, really. We have these two types of clients that I was saying earlier. And for the ones that actually are working with us from a brand point of view, for them, what they want to see is, more engagement online regarding their brand in connection to something else they're doing. So, for example, they have a 50th anniversary, they have a big year, a relaunch of their brand, something specific that they're working on as a team. And that's where they're going to measure us against. Whereas for other clients, they are on, top 3, they want to be top 1. If we get there, then we got there. So we had a client that they joined us last year and they wanted to get in the top 10 keywords that they were going after. And they got top 3. So now we're starting our first full year after, the initial test that we did. And we know that's our goal. Our goal now is to get them to a point where they will get in the top 3. When you're working SEO, you know the difference between being number 10, being number 2, being number 1. It's a different world. So we never got too caught up in trying to define ROI, because we know that our clients will do that and they will see it. If we try to do it and we don't understand their business or where they're coming from, we're going to waste a lot of time. I guess it's a really interesting question that I could ask some of our clients just out of interest. I imagine that we could learn a lot from that, but we kind of stay out of those things.
What is a campaign you would say is the most horrible campaign you have ever done, which didn't work out really well, and why?
I always think about the same campaign. Have you seen the film Ratatouille?
Yes.
Do you remember there's a scene where Ratatouille is trying to show his brother that there was more to food than rubbish? He would give him food and say, close your eyes and kind of describe the taste, and his brother would see colors and things. And we saw that and we thought, wow, we could visualize flavor. Wouldn't that be great? If we could make a visual that makes you think of Chinese food or Italian cuisine, that would be awesome. So we did that. The images look really cool, but super weird. It just didn't work at all. It didn't work. And I think that the biggest learning that we had from that campaign was just that in this particular case, flavor is something that has to be experienced. Unless you have some form of synesthesia where you could see colors and taste something, it's quite unlikely that somebody will see green and taste lettuce, guacamole or something. You just see green, It was fun. It was an interesting creative exercise. It really, really didn't work. And we did get some links just because it was odd. So we did get some, food sites covering it as this is weird. And some design sites covering as this is interesting. But as a whole, based on the amount of effort we put into that campaign, the results were just sad. But we did learn this thing of, there is a line when we're trying to visualize things, and we just, we went too far. Yeah, I guess that was probably the worst campaign I can think of.
Amazing, Gisele. It's been an honor to have you on the show. It's super interesting. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for tuning in, and we see us next week again on SEO Presso. Ciao.